This is the Everyday AI Show, the everyday podcast where we simplify AI and bring its power to your fingertips. Listen daily for practical advice to boost your career, business, and everyday life.
I don't think there's room to deny anymore the fact that generative AI can make us so much more productive in the workplace. But there's pros and cons to that, right? I don't think productivity is so easy to just pass over that we can just throw a bunch of AI at it and walk away. I think AI is actually changing even what it means to be productive in the workplace and what happens afterwards. All right, I'm extremely excited to talk about that today, and welcome to Everyday AI. What's going on, y'all? My name's Jordan Wilson, and I'm the host, and this is for you. This is your show. This is your daily live stream podcast and free daily newsletter, helping everyday people learn generative AI so they can leverage it to grow their companies and grow their careers. So if that sounds like you, whether it's your first time or number 330, thank you for joining us. If you're on the podcast, make sure to check out your show notes. As always, there's going to be more information on there. We recap our conversation, our interviews every single day in the newsletter, bringing you exclusive insights, even more. So if today's episode catches your ear, you're going to want to read the newsletter as well. So make sure you can find that at youreverydayai.com. All right, before we get into today's conversation about how AI is changing workplace productivity, which I'm excited about, let's get into the AI news first. So, Hollywood video game performers have announced a strike over AI protections. So, Hollywood's video game performers are going on strike. Just started at midnight today, following a breakdown in negotiations over AI protections with major game studios. The strike is significant as it marks the second work stoppage for video game voice actors and motion capture performers under the Screen Actors Guild, American Federation of Television and Radio Artists. That's a big mouthful. SAG-AFTRA, I believe, is the shortened version there. So the negotiations, which previously lasted nearly 2 years, involved major gaming companies such as Activision, Warner Brothers, and Walt Disney. While progress has been made on wages and job safety, the two sides could not agree on the regulation of generative AI. All right, our next AI news for the day. 2 AI models from Google DeepMind have achieved silver medal performance at the International Math Olympiad. So 2 new AI models, Alpha Proof and Alpha Geometry 2, have made significant strides in solving advanced mathematical problems, achieving a performance level equivalent to a silver medalist at the International Mathematics Olympiad. So the IMO is a prestigious competition for young mathematicians, challenging participants with complex problems in algebra, geometry, and number theory. So Alpha Proof is a reinforcement learning-based system for formal math reasoning, and Alpha Geometry 2 is an improved geometry solving system. It successfully solved 4 out of 6 IMO problems. The combined AI system scored 28 points out of a possible 42, earning a perfect score on each problem it did solve, just 1 point shy of the gold medal threshold, which is wild. So if you heard like 2 years ago, oh, AI is bad at math. No, it's not. That's world-class level right there. All right. And then last but not least, if you read our newsletter yesterday, we snuck this in there, but we got to talk about it here on the podcast. OpenAI has announced Search GPT, a new way to search the web. So OpenAI has introduced Search GPT, an advanced AI-powered search engine that promises to transform how we find information online, challenging Google's dominance. So Search GPT is designed to understand and respond to user queries with nuanced conversational answers, offering a more intuitive search experience. Unlike traditional search engines, Search GPT remembers previous queries, allowing for a seamless flow of information and deeper understanding. The engine is currently in very limited beta release for 10,000 users, with OpenAI aiming to fine-tune the system before a broader rollout. So this should be pretty interesting here. So a direct shot at Google. We first reported on this about 4 months ago. It was apparently delayed at the time, but now they just rolled the beta out. 10,000 users. So who knows when the rest of the world will get this, whether it's going to be 2 weeks, 2 months, we're not sure, but you can sign up for the beta and we will have that link in our newsletter as well. It's interesting too, because Reddit also just did announce today that they'll be blocking all AI search engines that it didn't go into a partnership with. but OpenAI did go into partnership with them. So should be pretty interesting there. Direct shot at Google, direct competitor now to Perplexity in that regard. All right. That's enough for the AI news. We'll have more in the newsletter, but let's talk about how AI is changing workplace productivity. This is something I think about all the time. And I think when we talk about productivity, it's a lot more than meets the eye when it comes to AI. All right. So I'm excited for today's guest. So there we go. We have him on. Please help me welcome on Dean Guida, the founder and CEO of Infragistics. Dean, thank you so much for joining the Everyday AI Show.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Glad to be here.
All right, Dean, tell us a little bit about what Infragistics is and what you all do.
Yeah, for the last 35 years, we've been building tools for designers and developers that are building commercial applications, a lot around the UI and data analytics. And we have a product called Slingshot, which is an AI data-driven work management tool that goes and connects to all your business systems. And then you can have conversational analytics within a productivity platform that you can execute and have all your tasks and have transparency in how you're getting work done and really leveraging data and AI to make better, more informed decisions.
Yeah, Dean, for you said 30 plus years there. I mean, even when we talk about generative AI, and we'll get into the productivity, topic here in a second, but, for a founder and CEO who's been in the game for 30 plus years, overall, I mean, how do you compare this generative AI wave to previous technological innovation such as the internet, right? Cloud, mobile, web 2.0. Where do you think generative AI falls when we start to compare it to previous tech innovation?
Yeah, it's like 10x. I mean, seeing all the innovation over 35 years, the capability and benefit and how software companies can build on top of what's happening in the market is amazing. So it's really 10x innovation over all these different transitions we've gone through over the last 3 or 4 decades.
Yeah. And hey, as a reminder to our live stream audience, we actually got a lot of people in the house today. So thanks for joining us. If you do have questions for Dean, please get them in now. But let's just get to the crux of the topic. Let's answer the question right now, Dean. From your vantage point, how is AI changing workplace productivity? I know that's a big question and we'll unwrap it. But overall, what's your take on how AI has impacted productivity?
Yeah, I think that the whole market is trying to figure out an equilibrium where management and the workforce truly understands at what level of productivity you'll get. So you have this heightened expectation from management, and then you have some change management and resistance among the workforce. So like we sell a lot of tools to some of the biggest SIs, Tata, Infosys, Wipro, and we work with some of the largest ISVs and enterprises. And I think the CIOs and the enterprise think that they can get 30% or more productivity from their software development teams and from their partners, their software integrators, and it's not quite really there. So just truly understanding how you can use AI and co-pilots and to help aid software development, it's helpful, but it's not quite at the same level of like where it's a little disruptive of in the market of business, both people, hiring people as well as partnering with companies that build software. So it's kind of not there yet. It's not found its equilibrium.
And that's interesting, right? Because I've personally, I've interviewed hundreds of people here on the Everyday AI Show, and I've heard both sides of it, right? I've heard people, just like you say, yeah, we're seeing some gains, but it's not quite where everyone's promised. And then I've heard people on the other end say, oh, it's way more than everyone's promised. I'm curious, and I've talked about this a little bit recently, but on the educational piece, right? How are you, as the, co-founder as the founder and CEO, how are you making sure that your employees are properly trained and can use all these tools available to them, especially when you work with, a lot of software companies and there's so many great AI, tools and systems that help in coding and software development. How do you kind of navigate, education and making sure that your employees, have the right tools and the right training to take advantage of what is available to them?
Yeah, some of it's easy and some of it's hard. So the easy part is like we have websites with large content in it, and so we'd have to put a lot of people and a lot of time to translate to Japanese, Korean, Spanish. And we use this product called Woven that's amazing, that real-time translates our content for our website. So that's just, there's such huge productivity gains that's easily adapted in our company. And then, but then we even have our software development teams that there's a change management there where we have to convince some of our teams to use Copilot and GitHub Copilot. And there's, once they start using it, they see the value that's doing a lot of the busy work for them. But there is a whole change management problem that you have to address. And then the other thing, some AI, like everyone's infusing AI into their product. So generative AI doesn't get it right all the time. So when you're like, even in work management tools where it starts to give you a status update on projects and what tasks matter, it doesn't always get it right. And so you spend the time using the AI to summarize what's happening, but then you read it and it's not correct. So now you've wasted time reading the summary. It's not correct when you could have just done and gave management an update on where projects are at. So that's kind of where we're at, like in the middle of everyone rushing to inject this technology into their software. And when it's only right, not all the time, then actually, has less confidence in people using it.
I'm curious. You mentioned, GitHub Copilots, right? A great, piece of AI software to help people code. And I'd say it was one of the earliest, focused on a specific task, right? And it did it very well, right? But now you have, just as an example, you have Anthropic's Claude 3.5 Sonnet, which is amazing at coding, right? How do you, how can you as the leader of an organization keep up with all these advancements, right? Especially if maybe you have to win people over and finally get them in a system. And then all of a sudden, it seems like every week, even this week, we've seen 3 literally groundbreaking tools that are, benchmarking through the charts on things like coding, on things like, creative writing, everything else. How do you keep up with all of these advancements and balance that productivity with, spending a lot of time training, people on a certain system?
Well, we may be a little unique because we're not only users of AI, but we're also building AI. So we're constantly looking at different new models and how we're leveraging it inside of our data analytics and conversational analytics products. So that's kind of keeping up an area of our development teams. But I think it's all of our job to do it. At least we're a software company. So it's our job to get at a baseline of understanding where the market is, and then constantly, as you said, as new models and new techniques enter the market, how can we leverage that? Where does it make sense? And quite frankly, it's not just value to your customer. It's also there's always a cost model to it. So like as a software company, we looked at OpenAI, then we looked at some smaller models, language models, and we're wanting to deliver the right model and the right value at the cost structure we can afford to pass on to our customers. So it's not just about innovation and the model's capability. There's also an economic point to it.
One other thing that you mentioned there that I wanted to kind of circle back to, Dean, is this concept of, this heightened expectations. You talked about how there's, resistance even, in the workforce to this, right? That's one thing I'm always curious to dive more into, right? If you're introduced, if you're a manual knowledge worker, which so many of us are, right? We're working in front of a computer, doing certain skills, doing certain tasks over and over. And there's a new tool that comes in that can, in theory, if you use it correctly, it can automate a good chunk of this. Why do you think that there's resistance in the workforce, to these generative AI systems that can really help alleviate some of these time-consuming mundane tasks?
Yeah, I mean, when it's time-consuming and mundane task, I think you get adoption, but then you get like these senior architects and these senior developers and maybe just even developers where they're set in their ways. They're amazing at what they do, and it takes a lot to get them to change and do something different when they've had such success at building software in the past. And so it's just a human nature where, I mean, it's not just software developers, but it's human nature where people change their process and they're skeptical of it. So, yeah, you have to there is some management and there's some cajoling involved here. And then when they what AI is doing now is a lot of work that no developer likes to do. But then you have this hype out there saying that in 3 years, that 3 years or in this decade, you won't have any more software developers. I just don't believe that there's too much complexity in the enterprise. There's too much technology. There's too much data. There's too much legacy. It's complex. I mean, so I think you have some of that as well.
Yeah, and let's dive into that a little bit more, because again, you hear people on both sides of this issue, right? We've had multiple people on the podcast who, Dean, very much like what you just said, like, no, it's much more intricate than that. And, maybe famously or infamously, you had NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang kind of suggest like, no, kids probably shouldn't be learning coding because it's not going to really be needed in the future, right? For some of those, and we don't have to just talk about, software development and coding, but, when it comes to, you're wanting to build up certain skill sets in your team, right? In your workforce. How do you balance that as a CEO, right? When there's some of these, AI systems and tools, even consumer facing ones like ChatGPT and Claude, Gemini, et cetera, that can do certain tasks so well. How do you manage that, right? Do you go out and, just try to hire people who just have an AI first mentality only? Or do you still try to hire people who still want to, develop and quote unquote, use those kind of like, and I chuckle when I say this, like these old school skill sets? Like, how do you balance hiring the right people who have the right mindset on what they want to learn and know?
Yeah, I mean, for us, we always want to hire this kind of growth mindset people. We always want to hire people that are really focused on enjoy learning and problem solving. And so for us, it's not a change from that point of view, where when you have these growth minded people, any kind of productivity and ability to be creative or solve problems faster, they're into it. But even with that said, in our company with growth mindseted people, we still have resistance to change too. So it's not perfect world. And so I think we're just at this point in time where we're talking about this, but as the months and years go on, we won't talk about this. We'll talk about understanding, okay, what models are really doing well, where to watch out over time, what models are, not doing so well. And so I think this is a conversation at a point in time in history that we won't have this in the future.
Yeah. And, one thing that, even we're very small, right? We have a small team here, but, I tell our team, hey, we have to use this AI system for this task. No more doing it like we used to. Do you put those kind of directives down? Like, is there a certain, kind of governing structure where, you say, hey, when we're doing these tasks, we need to use, GitHub Copilot, or we need to use this system? Or do you just kind of leave it up to individuals in teams, right? Like, especially, you said that you guys work a lot in the software industry where there's a lot of hand coding, I'm sure, and, creating other AI products for other companies. How do you actually manage that? Can you say, oh, only use these AI tools for these tasks?
I mean, we do say it, but then you have to be realistic that not everyone will follow it. So we've always promoted improved process, always promoted use of software and technology. And now that we have AI, of course, we're promoting that. And so we don't like reprimand, it's a level of enforcing it. We don't reprimand people, but we're like, look, here's the gain. So it's a constant reinforcement. We're like, here's this team's getting the gains. Here's how you can do less busy work. Here's how you could do things faster. And so for us, we do like state it and mandate it, but like the level of enforcement, we don't do.
Yeah. And, I'm wondering, and you don't have to talk about this specifically with, your company. Maybe you can talk about it in the broader scope, but do you think that there's maybe a potential for divide, right? Like, I tell people AI implementation is actually about change management more than it's actually about artificial intelligence or large language models. Do you think that there is maybe a divide right, among those who are using it and advocates and finding great productivity gains versus those who kind of maybe are a little more, stuck in their ways, kind of like what you said earlier. Is there a potential for a growing divide in a company? And could maybe an AI tool or system do more harm than good?
I think there is. It's always a change management problem. I don't think it'll be so like two sides saying we're harming good, because like if you use some of these generative AI features in software and workflow tools and design tools, you find out that like it doesn't remember right now. All like you're trying to iterate through some creative visual concept, and it doesn't remember what it got right, and then you try to change the pieces it got wrong, and then you start iterating on it, and then all of a sudden it lost what you like, and so then people become frustrated. But that doesn't mean throw the tool out. It means, okay, that's just the state. We'll keep improving the output and the capability of these different models. So I don't see it as a lined up divide. I think you do see it in industries like you reported in your news that, it could really take out like future opportunity for industries. And so then you will see that divide. But internally, I think we're all going through a transition of good value, forgive it when it doesn't do something good, but like leverage it where it does do good, and understand the the value of the capability of the tool to get your job done.
Are you still running in circles trying to figure out how to actually grow your business with AI? Maybe your company has been tinkering with large language models for a year or more, but can't really get traction to find ROI on Gen AI. Hey, this is Jordan Wilson, host of this very podcast. Companies like Adobe, Microsoft, and NVIDIA have partnered with us because they trust our expertise in educating the masses around generative AI to get ahead. And some of the most innovative companies in the country hire us to help with their AI strategy and to train hundreds of their employees on how to use Gen AI. So whether you're looking for ChatGPT training for thousands or just need help building your front-end AI strategy, you can partner with us too, just like some of the biggest companies in the world do. Go to youreverydayai.com/partner to get in contact with our team, or you can just click on the partner section of our website. We'll help you stop running in those AI circles and help get your team ahead and build a straight path to ROI on Gen AI.
You know what? Speaking of recent news, I think we talked about this on the show yesterday, but there was a recent study on productivity in AI from the Upwork Research Institute. So it said that despite 96% of C-suite leaders expecting AI to boost productivity, nearly half of employees using AI feel that they don't know how to meet those productivity gains expected by their employers. Dean, I'm sure you have thoughts on this, but where do you stand on kind of this, this C-suite expectation for increased productivity, right? Because sometimes companies are investing, tens of thousands of dollars a month or more just on software licenses, right? Or sometimes a lot more than that. So where do you stand on this, C-suite productivity demands versus like workers being like, I can't do that?
Yeah, I mean, there's a heightened expectation, and then there's a moving productivity delivery from the people building out these software systems and AI systems. So it's one of these things where you can set a high goal, think you're going to get 30% productivity, and then all of a sudden you're overworking your teams. And so it's really about listening to your teams and truly listening to them. Like, hey, we're getting overworked. You're giving us too much. We're not getting the productivity level. Or we're having a level here, or maybe the next release of some model is going to help us better here. But I think we're in this very transitional stage in history where there's both real true value being delivered, and then there's heightened expectation, and finding that balance is going to be shaken out. It's like I was saying earlier in our conversation, you have some of these very big CIOs in the enterprise thinking that they can use the same workforce and get 30% more output, therefore they don't need more staff, and that's just not quite there yet. There's just so much more complexity in a lot of jobs.
Yeah. And, I think ultimately for those companies or groups that can experience that 30% more output as an example, I think it can lead to burnout, right? This is something even myself, I experience often that I didn't experience before generative AI, right? Here it is. It's not even 8 a.m. My time as I'm talking with you, Dean. I've already used at least 5 different AI systems. I've already done the work in 2 hours today that would normally take me a day or more. I personally often feel just fatigued from consuming way more information than I'm normally would. Is there a downside to employee productivity as well in feeling this burnout because you always have a tool that can help you do more and there's an expectation to do more?
Yeah, I think for like A personalities such as yourself or people that are driven, they're going to leverage tools and push it more. So if you used to be able to get 2 days worth of work and days of work in one, now people think you can do 3 and you're driven then to hit that goal. I mean, so I don't think it's an AI problem. I think it's just a self-management problem. But yeah, I mean, it's more about management understanding the real level of productivity and expectation so that people feel at the end of the day they were successful and management's happy.
Mm. Speaking of management being happy, I think a lot of that, obviously comes from driving business value, right? Ultimately, you want to implement some sort of AI and you want to see some sort of business growth. Had a global AI leader from Microsoft on last week who she just kind of said, hey, don't worry about your return on investment just yet. How do you tackle that, Dean? Kind of like looking at creating business value and finding that nice balance with productivity. How do you kind of steer that? And I mean, when you implement a new AI system into your workflow, is there a direct expectation that, hey, this much must lead to X level of productivity, X dollars of new business growth? How do you manage these new AI initiatives that you implement in your organization?
Well, I think I come from it from being a tech CEO point of view, which is that we always have to overinvest in the future of technology so much to stay ahead and be competitive. So we have a lot of patience of overinvesting and being patient about the ROI and return. But if you don't do that when the market's ready, and then you're too far behind on your software or your tech. So I guess my answer is probably a little bit different than maybe others, or maybe it's not. But we have to overinvest and be patient about that. And I think Microsoft and others are saying that because there's so much money flowing into AI, and there's such a big shift. Everyone's worried about where all the chess pieces shift. Who now is the king and queen, and then there's such great promise and such heightened promise. Like I was at TED, and one of the heads of DeepMind, now I'm leading Microsoft, kind of talked about, AI is a new digital species. Well, that's just going to scare the crap out of everybody. Like, it's not a new species, It's like the tech and and where we're at with these LLMs is going to get us really far, but not enough to AGI level. And but with this heightened expectations, because there's trillions and billions of dollars going in here, like, I was amazed Anthropic getting $6 billion in funding when they had 50 people and no revenue. And that's just the insaneness of what's happening at this point in time. But there's real value there. So it's insane because it's never been that much funding. But then the promise of what the problems you can solve on top of these technologies is really great.
Yeah. What would you say, because you talked about not only are you all using AI internally, but you're also building AI solutions for other clients. But, I'm wondering for yourselves internally, where have you found the maybe either best productivity kind of returns on an AI investment internally, or something that you think an AI move that you've made recently that has paid the biggest dividends already in terms of new business growth?
Yeah, well, we've seen amazing returns, and a great use case for AI is where we're training these models on all our business systems. So, we use Salesforce, we use HubSpot sometimes, we use all these account-based marketing systems. We use so many systems at our company, but all this data is locked up in these different business systems. And even though they may have reporting and analytics capability, it's still locked up in these silos. And so this huge value we're achieving is by training an AI on all of your business data, and then the user experience of just asking questions in a conversation to understand customer acquisition cost or a best performing campaign or whatever question you have is a game changer for us and for a lot of businesses that, when you can unlock your business data to tell you what's happening so that you can kind of hypothesize and create experiments and improve business outcomes. That's been a huge game changer for us.
Where are you looking at next? Right. I think you're in a unique position. I love talking to people in your position, Dean, that, both build AI solutions for others and are using other AI solutions internally. Where are you looking next?
I mean, for us, it's also getting more accurate. Like for me, I really want to see working with an AI to iteratively create something, whether it's content, a visual, code, whatever. I just feel that it's not quite there with changing pieces of its output and iterating on the pieces you want changed and not affecting pieces of what the output that's already you like. Like when we get over that hump, it's going to be so much more productive for everyone. And that's kind of a generic statement, whatever content you're outputting.
All right. So Dean, we've covered a lot in about 30 minutes. So, we've talked about the pros and the cons of productivity. We've talked about how AI and productivity in the workplace is more change management than anything else. But maybe, as we wrap up here, what is the one best piece of advice that you have for others? Maybe, something you said really struck a chord with someone and they're like, we got to get this whole productivity thing with AI balanced and figured out. What is your one best piece of advice or takeaway for those business leaders that are moving the pieces within their own organization?
Yeah, I think it's just constantly being open-minded and understanding the state of all of your all the innovations happening. So, and then prioritizing what's most important to your business to stay even closer to it. And then just being realistic about the outcome and once you deploy it and use it, and know that everything's iterative, that everything's always improving. So I think if you start at the top of expectation, you'll help the whole organization adopt and deliver and be more better execution.
And you know what? I think there is so much great value in today's show. So, thank you so much, Dean, for joining the Everyday AI Show and helping us all better understand kind of how to balance and find this workplace productivity with AI. We appreciate your time and your insights.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
All right, everyone, there was a lot there, and there's a lot more. As always, we're going to be recapping today's conversation, as well as giving you the most up-to-date what's going on in the world of generative AI, fresh finds from across the internet, everything in our newsletter. So please go to youreverydayai.com, sign up for that free daily newsletter. We hope to see you back next week and every day for more Everyday AI. Thanks, y'all.
And that's a wrap for today's edition of Everyday AI. Thanks for joining us. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and leave us a rating. It helps keep us going. For a little more AI magic, visit youreverydayai.com and sign up to our daily newsletter so you don't get left behind. Go break some barriers, and we'll see you next time.